Mr. Golding, can you elaborate on the infrastructure problem, and how does it affect you on a daily basis in your business?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Many of the locks and dams that we transit through are well beyond their useful life. We've maintained them. We've been able to operate within their scope. But as we testified here today, the infrastructure we have is outdated and in need of investment. Some examples I can give you. Recently, the Olmsted Lock and Dam was completed. I know that had been a long yoke around our industry's neck. We changed our cost share program to more match the Inland Harbor Trust Fund. We added a more robust match to what our industry pays into, and as a result, that project came together rather quickly and is now considered a success. One project I could point to that is in dire need of update is the Industrial Lock and Canal in New Orleans, Louisiana. This lock is nearing 100 years old, and in 1956 was authorized for modernization. I don't think anything's been done since then. Oftentimes, we can wait 2 to 3 days to transit that part of the country. It's a vital inland outlet for the east side of the lower Gulf states of the country, including the Port of Mobile and entry to the Tenn-Tom Waterway. Many of these gateways have massive delays associated with them, and as a result, that cost gets passed on to the consumer. If we can find a way to invest in these locks and dams and create a system that's more efficient, I have no doubt that the maritime industry will rise to the occasion and be at a price point that will benefit and be looked back upon as a worthy investment.
Thank you. Mr. Golding, during your testimony, Senator Cantwell and I were just amazed at the staggering salaries that a young American can make after a year or so. Were you giving the best case scenario, or how accurate is that across the board? Or is there a little hyperbole here, or is $70,000 to $100,000 actually something that the average trainee can aspire to after a year or two?
That is the salary that they begin that position making. This type of work does come at a high compensation, but I have to stick up for our mariners and tell you they miss a lot, Chairman. They work really hard. They work in elements that are uncomfortable. They miss major life events, and they do it in the name of putting food on the table and providing a wage and a living for their family. We're happy to pay these wages. These men are talented. These men and women are credentialed. These men and women sacrifice a lot to do this work. So as they go from 30 to 70,000, I can tell you that's my favorite part of the job, especially when they go from 70 to 150,000 or 130,000 to start that position. As they become more proficient as a pilot, it doesn't stop there. They can go from 130,000 over $200,000 a day. I've had pilots.
A year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A year. Well, I was going with that is we've had to call some of these guys to try to get them to move our commerce, and they'll tell you, I'm not getting off the couch for less than $1,000 a day. And so I'm proud to pay these wages. We are, as an industry, proud to employ these mariners. I think that the sacrifice and the effort and the talent that goes into these positions is well worth the money, and I anticipate those salaries actually increasing in the future.
Thank you very much. Mr. Paxton, it's frustrating to hear people suggest that we can't move our LNG and still operate under the Jones Act. Help us confirm that the domestic shipbuilding industry is capable and prepared to give our United States economy what we need. And also, when we're talking transport to Europe, which we would love to supply with our abundant resources, and get them out from under the thumb of a dominant Russia, those vessels are not required to be under the Jones Act. So help us out on that.
Yes, sir. First of all, right now we are building for the market for LNG transport. QLNG is building ocean-going, articulated tug barge LNG carriers, and we're servicing the market that exists right now for LNG. Now, if the question is, could we build LNG carriers? Absolutely, 1,000%. We could build those. If there's a market to move LNG domestically with an LNG carrier, we can build that. Right now, sir, there's not. There just isn't for a domestic shipment of LNG in a carrier.
Well, let me sneak this in. I want to get the needed LNG to our American citizens, Puerto Rico.
Yes, sir.
Do we have the capability to do that?
Absolutely, sir. If for years we had LNG carriers that were waiting to deliver LNG to Puerto Rico, 3 of them, U.S. built, U.S. crude, waved back in 2011, and those vessels were never used. The reality is, and the facts are, sir, in Puerto Rico, to deliver large LNG delivery, they don't have the infrastructure to receive it. They don't. The fact is, if they do develop that infrastructure to receive large LNG quantities, we can build those ships in time to do that, sir. Our shipyards are right now talking to operators to build LNG carriers. And we have enough time to build those carriers to deliver LNG to Puerto Rico when they have the infrastructure to receive it, sir.
So whether it's a Jones Act vehicle or a non-Jones Act vehicle, you got to have the facilities to receive.
Got to have the facilities
product.
received, yes, sir. And then, sir, one last thing on your question about delivering LNG internationally to Europe. You know, your legislation in the last Congress, the Energizing American Shipbuilding Act, is the way to do that. Take some percentages. We did the same thing with Prudhoe Bay, with Alaska crude, and we put those on U.S. tankers, and they sent that crude internationally. We could do the same thing with LNG. In fact, Russia, last year, passed a law requiring all their LNG and crude to go on Russian-built LNG carriers under Russian control. They saw the wisdom of your legislation, sir, and they implemented it in Russia. So that's what we're up against, and I think we should do the same thing here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Cantwell.
Thank you.